what is this video? I don't know. And the strigoli, that sounds like an Italian pasta dish. Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Andrew, so welcome back to my channel. Basically, I did something. I ordered an entire series. I ordered this when I was about halfway through the first book through my library. So what is this video? I don't know. Something that I wish I had been able to do when I went through the first time I read The Mortal Instruments is I wish I could have like my first initial thoughts on each book as I finished it. So this morning I finished the first book. So basically I just want to review the first Vampire Academy book. But first let's discuss what is Vampire Academy. So Vampire Academy is a 6-book series, which just like The Mortal Instruments, and I feel like there's a lot of, well, let me just tell you what it's about. So Vampire Academy follows a girl named Rose, and she is a Dhampir, I believe, so she's half human, half vampire, and she and her best friend have this bond, and there's like 3 different types of vampires in this world. So we have the Dhampirs, the Morais, and the strigoli. That sounds like an Italian pasta dish, but the strigoi, no, I think it's the strigoi. The strigoi are like the evil vampires, basically, and they're trying to convert all of the Morai into strigoi, and there's just a lot in just this first book. So as a plot-based reader, I think this is going to be a series for me. This is a very beloved series, so I know it's pretty old. This was from 2007, but the reason that I wanted to read it was because people seem to hate or love this series, which is also true for The Mortal Instruments, and I fall into loving The Mortal Instruments. You know, that series, she has her flaws. She definitely has some things I wish weren't present, but as I've said in other videos, like The Mortal Instruments is like why I started my whole channel. So, and there are things in this book that remind me of The Mortal Instruments in a way. Like the whole different types of vampires is clearly like reminiscent of the whole different types of creatures you get in The Mortal Instruments. But I do think, so let's just talk about, I don't even know, I have no structure to this. I have no notes. I just finished the first book. So I'll tell you this, I gave it 4 stars. I do think that in terms of, I think that there's 3 main things when it comes to like a book, whether that's any book, whether it's a fantasy book or not. I think you've got your plot, your writing, and your characters. And for me personally, I think plot is number 1. There are some books that don't have the strongest plot that I still enjoy because the characters and the writing have kind of made up for it. But I'm going to say as a general rule for me, it's plot is number 1, characters is a very close number 2. And if you have bad writing, as long as I enjoy the plot and the characters, then I'm here for it. So I think that if you haven't read Vampire Academy, but you're maybe interested, but writing is like your number 1 thing, that I don't think that this is going to be something you'll enjoy because it's very basic writing. You don't have any fancy words. It's just it is what it is. Like it's not a beautiful prose kind of story. So while I definitely appreciate beautiful prose, it's not something that I would consider myself to have as my number 1 priority. So I just think that's important to discuss here. But as far as the plot of book 1 goes and how I feel about it, I ended up giving this book 4 stars because I did really enjoy the characters and the world. This is very reminiscent of 2007, but I mean, that's when the book was published. So it definitely has, people say there's no girl on girl hate, and there definitely is a really good like bond between Rose, the main character, and Lissa, and that's pretty great. And a lot of other female characters and Rose get along, but there is one, I guess she's kind of like the antagonist in a way in the book, that they clearly have like a very hostile relationship. And you know, but it was she was an interesting character, and like her motivations and all that. So I think the plot and the characters are definitely strong in this book. So I feel like this is a very good like setup to a series, and I'm interested to see how it's explored in 6 books. I could see easily how you could expand it. So as far as the plot goes, basically it's going to be spoilers from here on out. Like, I feel like maybe I should have said at the beginning, I'm going to put it in the title and the thumbnail, like it's a spoiler-filled review. So if you don't want spoilers, then you can go read it and come back or be spoiled. So I feel like this book, it doesn't really have plot twists in a way that I guess it has more like reveals, which I prefer something to be more of a reveal towards the end. So like I just want to go towards the end because I just feel like it's easier to talk about the end of the book when you finish the book. So throughout the whole book, we have this whole bond with Lissa and Rose. They have the whole bond, the whole book, and it's just like we don't really know how it happened or what happened, but towards the end, it's revealed that basically the reason that they have this bond is because Rose died and Lissa brought her back to life. And like that was a reveal I appreciated. And there was a reveal about Mia, like how she convinced Jesse and Ralph. Was it Jesse and Ralph? There's a lot of names in this book. There's a lot of people to keep track of. But I think it was Jesse and Ralph. They were doing a bunch of shady shit, and apparently the reason that they did it was because Mia slept with them. Mia is the antagonist I was talking about earlier. And I really feel like people, so like it has a plot, but I feel like it doesn't really pick up until the end of the book, which is another reason that like I definitely want to continue this here. I have the whole entire series. So like I'm going to continue the series just so that I can have that satisfaction of a completed series. But this definitely didn't super pick up until the end. And like I said, the writing is very juvenile, but you find out about Saint Vladimir and his past and how he has this, what do they call them? There's like a bond with them, the Guardians. But I don't think, like, when you learn about Saint Vladimir, like, you don't know about the Guardians. Like, you don't know that he has a guardian. But you know in this book, in modern day times, that there are what they call guardians, and that is what Rose is to Alyssa. And there's all this relationship, and the dynamics between Rose and the I think she's the headmistress, was like, that headmistress really had it out for Rose for whatever reason. And then Rose really had it out for Christian, and I thought Christian was a very fascinating character, so I'm hoping to keep seeing him. I was worried about him towards the end there, but you know, so I guess now she's gonna have a bond. I'm pretty sure Lyssa, I don't know if she brought him back from the dead or if she just healed him or what, but now they're probably gonna have a bond also, and Lyssa can like go into other people's minds, or she can go into, Rose can go into Lyssa's mind because they have the bond, and that was very interesting. And then the whole thing with the Raven towards the end was also interesting because like Rose is realizing like, oh, like this Raven also has a bond with Lyssa. So all these creatures that she's brought back to life, they have these bonds with her, and I find that absolutely fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. And then of course I want to say it's Lyssa's uncle. Lyssa's uncle is like the one who tells her all this stuff, and he's like, you're gonna go crazy. And then we find out about the teacher. Miss Karp was the teacher, I think, that told them 2 years ago that Lyssa needed to leave because if people found out about her power, then they would be after her. And then we find out that she turned herself into Strigoi so that she wouldn't go crazy, because when Lyssa's uncle is talking about, there is a lot here, there's a lot that just happened in just book 1. So, but I don't really see how it's gonna get, because it was kind of like, I thought it was going to end like on a huge cliffhanger from the way I've heard these described, but I feel like it kind of wrapped it up decently. Like there's not, like I can see how we can have a series, but I also feel like the story is kind of complete by the end of this first book in a way. Like I'm trying to think, like just theorize what would happen in the next book, because as far as I remember from the end, I literally just finished this like a couple hours ago, and I'm already like, and then the whole thing with like, Lyssa thought that she was going to have powers, but she never had powers. But then see that whole entire exposition towards the end, it was like we were finally getting answers to things we had the whole book. And like, I like everything before the reveals with the uncle, I feel like was just a lot of like setting up characters and like the dynamics and like who's going to maybe get with who, and like that whole thing with like Rose getting, like Jesse telling people that she was a blood whore. That whole thing was stupid. And then we have the whole thing like Christian I talked about a little bit. So Christian has this whole background where like his parents turned into Strigoi, which is very interesting to explore, to see like how he's affected by that and like what happens with him in the series. Like I'm intrigued by his character, but there is a character who I just know it's not going to happen because of the way people say. I love Rose and Mason. When Mason first shows up on the page, Mason is the one who tells Rose that she needs to go look up like first resource or whatever they call it. Like you need to read like about Saint Vladimir from his own writings or from people who were alive during his time that would have met him. Like those first resource, something like that. And I loved that. I just love the banter with Mason and Rose. And I know it's not going to happen. I know it's not going to happen. But like Mason deserves all the rights. Like he deserves all the rights. I love Mason. Dimitri is fine. Obviously, she's obsessed. He's a god. He's so attractive. Oh my goodness. But like, what does he do in terms of like how he treats her? Does he treat her in a way that's super, like they just don't have, like I just felt so much more chemistry with like her and Mason, like Rose and Mason. I know it's not going to happen. Like I know it isn't, because from what people say, and I'm so upset. Like I need to, because listen, I don't know, maybe I could get sold on the whole Dimitri thing, because like this whole book, Rose is very clear. Like you are in Rose's head and you hear Rose herself. Like Rose is like pining for this man. She is pining for this 24-year-old man. And every time she talks about Mason in her head, she's like, why can't I just want a nice boy? And I'm just like, I don't know, girl. I don't know why you can't see it. I don't understand. Mason is perfect. Mason is amazing. Jesse can choke, and Ralph can choke, and like, who else was there? Was a lot of men. Okay, Dimitri, he's fine. Like, he's okay. Like, I don't hate him as much as I hate Jesse. Was annoying. Jesse, not annoying, but Jesse was just there to create conflict. And you know, we need conflict for like a story. But if we're gonna talk about who Rose should have been with, then it should have been Mason. Lissa, okay, Lissa and Christian. At first I was like, but as the book goes on, the more I'm like, no, like there's something there. And then like Christian set that guy on fire, but then when you find out why he set the guy on fire, he wanted to set the guy on fire because he wanted them to stop talking about, that's right, all the dead birds that showed up, and because whoever was putting, I think it was Natalie, which did not see that coming. Okay, that was a twist I didn't see coming, because Natalie is just this annoying girl who Rose hates the whole entire book, but then all of a sudden Natalie is like the person helping out. It's Rose's uncle, but I think are Mia and, I don't know if Lissa and Mia are related, or they're like both in the royal family, so I guess there's some sort of relationship there, because she calls the guy her uncle. But Natalie being the one who like helped with the dead animals was buck wild. Like, that girl just seemed way too stupid to handle that. But oh my goodness. Okay, and then also we have the whole thing where people are like, wait, Rose, how did you and Lissa get around these past 2 years, like without Lissa drinking any blood? And then they were just like, oh, everybody just, everybody was willing to drink, like, everyone just wanted to give us their blood. Everybody just like, here I am, like, everyone. I think it was, but then Natalie, I want to say Natalie started challenging it. So maybe that's kind of like that was like something that Rochelle, she planted on early on. I don't know. But this was a very Russian book. I didn't expect it to be Russian. I guess, is like Russian folklore where like vampires come from? I don't know. Maybe. I thought that I did really like Rose. Everyone says Rose is badass. I agree. Rose is badass. I think that Rose is a much better character than Clary Fairchild as far as she seems to have motivations. But at the same time, she has motivations because she was brought back to life by Lissa. And I feel very neutral on Lissa. The only character in this entire book that I care about is Mason. And if he dies in one of these books, I'll just have to deal with it. It's gonna be book 4 or 5, isn't it? Because it's gonna emotionally wreck me. I just know it is. And my opinion is that you should kill your characters. So if he gets killed and he gets brought back to life, then I'll be angry. But if he is dead, I'm already attached to book 1, okay? So I hope I at least get a couple more books with him. Mason is my honey bunny. I love Mason. Like I said, Rose doesn't want him. I want him. And then I'm confused because I remember there's a point in this book when Rose says, I just can't see myself with Mason because he has a Russian accent. Well, then when you listen to the audiobook of this, the narrator, which by the way, the audiobooks are trash. Do not listen to the audiobooks. I read most mostly physically, and I just really wanted to get through it. So not in a bad way. Like I just wanted, because I have 5 books left. So I just was like, let me get the audiobook and like work through it so we can move on to book 2. But she says she can't be with Mason because he has a Russian accent. And then literally in the audiobook, when Dimitri is talking, he has a Russian accent. A little narrator gives Dimitri a Russian accent. So like, oh, and the whole thing with the necklace at the end and Dimitri and Rose like getting together at the end of this, like, I don't know what to say about it. I just feel like it was weird. And then, well, okay, so that happens, right? And then what happens afterwards with Rose and the necklace, and not the necklace, with Rose and Dimitri, and then of course the uncle. The uncle just has all the answers, man. He has all the answers for everybody about everything. Like, he just is a mouthpiece for us to get all the answers. So, but he also was like, haha, the necklace was like, well, I guess he's the villain, so whatever. I was like reading this and I was like at the end, I was like, a lot of people hate the villainous monologue thing at the end, but I don't mind it. I don't love it, but I don't hate it. I feel like it's exposition, but it's giving me answers. Like, I want answers. Like, I want answers by the end. So I'm pretty satisfied with the book 1. Anyways, I'm on a huge tangent. What's my point? So this uncle man reveals to Rose that this necklace magic where they're super attracted to each other would not have worked if he didn't feel some type of way. But then he tells her, well, first, not talking about this it's not a linear discussion here, but first he says to Rose, like, oh, I'm not attracted to you, like, it's not what it is, which, like, I knew good and well that was not going to be true. Like, I know Dimitri be feeling some type of way from the way that, even though you're only getting Rose's perspective, but you can just tell from the way she describes, like, his looks and his faces and, like, the way he says things and blah, 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 blah. And, like, I really don't mind Dimitri. I really don't. I just, like, if we had hadn't been introduced to Mason, then I probably would have been like, this is uncomfortable, but it's pretty clear that Rose is interested in this older man. And, you know, if you're uncomfortable with an age gap romance, then that's you. I personally will be continuing the series. Like, I feel like it's very clear in this book that Rose is interested in this man. And who doesn't like a sexy older man? Like, as you know, but because 17 and 24, I don't know. I'm not here to talk about that, okay? I get it. I understand why people consider it problematic. I absolutely do. But in this book, it is so clear that Rose is the one pining for this man. Like, it's so obvious. Like, you cannot argue. You can't be like, oh, he's like, because even at the end of the book, he himself says like, what weird, like, I can't be attracted to you because of our, like, we're at different places in life. Like, I can't be into you. It's not appropriate. And then he says, like, I really can't be with you because I'm supposed to protect Alyssa. And if you and me were to become anything, then I would want to protect you more than I want to protect Alyssa. And then we have this, so like we have guardians that like shouldn't be having romances together. So we have forbidden romance on the horizon. And I love unrequited love, forbidden romance. Like, I'm here for it. Like, there's so many things. I think if you have read The Mortal Instruments and you haven't read this series, I mean, I'm just telling you this as some person who's only read book 1, so take that with a grain of salt. But I can tell you now, there's all these different dynamics of the vampires. There's forbidden romance. There's like the Strigoi are so much like, what's it called? The dark, whatever that thing Valentine is trying to push on people. Or if you have read the Vampire Academy and you haven't read The Mortal Instruments, like, what are you doing? You got to read them both. Like, I wouldn't read them back to back because they are. I think that Cassandra Clare has better writing, and I think she has better characters. And I don't know. I'll see how I feel. I see how I feel by the end. Because I mean, some people, I feel like I saw somebody comment that they liked this. This is like, a lot of people say this is like their favorite series ever. I'm not sure that I will agree because I don't know if we're going to get any LGBT representation in future books, but Cassandra Clare definitely had that in book 1 of her series. So if we don't get any LGBT representation, then this cannot possibly top The Mortal Instruments for me, but we will see. So would I recommend it? Yes, if you think that you would like this type of book. I don't think this is the type of book that is for everybody, as with any book. But I feel like if you like urban fantasy, if you like vampires, if you like the Vampire Diaries, if you like True Blood, like, I think you're going to be into this type of story. So you should absolutely pick it up. I will be continuing the series, and we're supposed to be getting a TV show. And I was looking at the actor they chose for Dimitri because I was like, who could they possibly put for this that's going to be like a god and all this? Like, I'm not watching the movie. Okay, I've heard the movie is trash. I'm not watching. I saw a clip of it when she punches that girl in the face, the dance, and that looked so terrible. I'm not watching that whole movie. Like, no way. But I will continue the book series. But yeah, the guy who's playing Dimitri, the actor, I think he was in, it'll be interesting. That's all I'm going to say. I don't know who's going to play Mason, but you know, if he can't get with Rose, he can get with me. All right, that's for real. So that's where we're at with book 1. I will hopefully have a review for book 2 soon. So stay tuned. I will leave my Instagram, Goodreads, and Twitter all in the description as well. And please tell me if you have read it, have not read it, if you are more or less interested in reading it, and then which book in the series is your favorite. If you have read it, if this is one of your favorite series, like, where would you rank it in your favorite series? And I think that's all. Have a great day. Bye.